watching Tulipswift. I'm back, and today I'm reviewing Forget Me Not by Julie Soto. Forget Me Not is an angsty romance told in dual points of view. I found this book because Allie Hazelwood posted a photo of it on Instagram, and I will do anything that woman tells me to do. So here we are. I really love this book. I love romance books that can make me cry because it's like you get the satisfaction of the romance, and there's also this like kind of gut-wrenching story in there. I gave the book 4 out of 5 stars. I think it's really close to being a 5 out of 5 star book, but I have some grievances with Elliot, this gentleman right here. The first thing I want to talk about is how this is kind of like a career-focused book to me. I loved the drama of her being a wedding planner, and I was so interested in all of the ideas and creativity as well as organization that went into this. We're all fixing our hair right now. So if you didn't know about me, I kind of work in the film industry, but like, don't get excited. I also have like a minimum wage retail job. Guys, hold the applause, hold the applause. I can barely pay rent. I'm like so humble. I thought it was so interesting how much I really related to this industry because film is like, there's so much pre-production in the producing and coordinating process. Some things are directly the same because you're looking for locations, you're looking for catering, you're looking to decorate the place. It's like a couple days, or like the longest one I've done is like maybe 30 days. And so it's like having a wedding every day for 30 days. So like, but it's fine, you know, it would be really inconvenient if I had like a
panic disorder or anything, but
that's too much information. So I thought it was so interesting that wedding planning is like had so many similarities, and I'm sure there's a lot of other like jobs that are like this, but I related so much to the anxiety of like everything has to be perfect because you've been working on this for months and all this money's going into it and everyone's going to show up. When we get to the part of why I cried was so... This is also going to be kind of a therapy session. We're going to get kind of personal in this video. Okay, so the book is told in Emma's point of view, and that's the wedding planner. And she's young. She's like early 20s. Oh my god, me. Ew. She's present day, and she's planning the biggest wedding of her solo career because she recently opened her own wedding planning business. And it's for these brides. One of the brides is an influencer, and so they're expecting a lot of press for this wedding, as well as it's the biggest budget that Emma has ever worked with. So it's a lot of pressure early in her career to really like make or break it right now. The brides insist that she works with the florist Elliot, who she hasn't worked with in years because it's also her ex-boyfriend. She really can't turn down this wedding, but she also really can't work with her ex-boyfriend, but we don't know what happened between them, just that they loved each other very much. And then throughout the book we kind of learn what happened because the other point of view is Elliot, but the point of view of when their relationship started. I loved the mystery, I loved the lead up, I loved the anticipation. It made it pretty hard to put down, but also like every happy moment they have together is so bittersweet because of how much pain they're in now, like as people broken up. I think the split point of view really amplified like the angst of the book and kind of these characters' differences, and it like fit perfectly for the tone and the fact that Elliot is like so stuck in the past. Right Where You Left Me by Taylor Swift. Like, I stayed there, dust collecting on my pinned up hair. This bitch right here. You know, something about Emma, she doesn't really believe in commitment or marriage. It's not something that has been serious for her mother, which is like, can I tell you my jaw dropped when I said like 16 weddings? Like, would your family even keep showing up like after wedding? Like, I feel like after like number 6, it's like 16? That's insane. That's so... How could you be engaged to someone who's had like, say, 11 previous weddings? You know, like, are you on the same page that like this time it's gonna be forever, or like no? Like, I don't know. But she says, Emma, honey, a wedding is just a party. Okay, so one big thing we have to touch on is Elliot is like mean. He's like a mean guy. I was like, is this another Kylo Ren fan fiction, right? Because like this Van is like so angry and impolite. I read a lot of like grumpy or like antisocial maybe love interests, but I've actually never read one that was just so unexplainably rude and to everyone. It really felt like that's just his personality. I love, like, you know, gimmicks or tropes going over the top. No hate to, like, all the Elliot fans, like, I definitely love them together, but it was just not attractive that he was, like, mean to everybody. He answers the phone and he's like, what? And I'm just like, sir? I mean, like, unless he's, like, a motorcycle bad boy, like, I don't want him to be mean. Like, that hurt my feelings. So, that was bizarre. One thing that I never got over is that he calls her Emma. And she's like, I love how you say my name. And I'm like, a different one? I like this book a lot. I love this book. I just thought that is so rude. Like, how could she be, like, the love of his life? And he's like, oh, like, Emma, close enough. Get out of here, bro. Anyways, that's just my personal opinion. I was so caught off guard. Personally, it was just funny to me, but also I was like, what? It was a little bit shocking to me. One thing I did really like, this was kind of crazy because it was annoying how all of her car lights were always on. And, like, I'm someone who's driven with, like, car lights on. Like, I'm a human being. I'm also a woman on this planet Earth, you know? But also, like, not putting this on women. Like, we're so strong and capable. But also, I recently got my headlight fixed and got my tires filled up with, like, my boyfriend helping me fill up the tires. How could all of her car lights be on? But her driving the car for years, even though it's, like, not drivable? That's so real. That's so real. I have driven cars that should not be legally on the road. It gets him so mad, and when he gets in the car and he's like, Emma, what are you doing? I was just like, oh my god, that's actually pretty funny. And I was just like, wait, is this a metaphor? Because it's like, look at all of her problems and he just wants to fix them, but she won't let him. She won't let him. She's like, no, leave me alone. I don't need you. I can drive my car completely fine. He's like, your car is girl, like, go to therapy. Anyways, maybe I'm kind of like a literary critic, or like, you know, I'm just like, see things deeper than most people. Also, like that the tattoos ended up being like a big part of this book. It was obviously something that she always loved about him. When he reveals his last tattoo, I thought it was gonna be Forget Me Not, which is like a kind of flower and like the name of the book, and maybe that was like too on the nose, but like whatever. No, he tattooed Amaryllis, which is the flower that's like her name, because like all of his flowers are extinct, and so like when they broke up, like he got a tattoo of like her being like, she's the love of my life and I lost her and stuff. And like I was like, that's like sad and like kind of dark and like very intense. I don't know. Like it gives me stalker. Like I think I don't like it. I don't like it. But like I'm so respectful of like everyone right now. So we know that there's going to be another Julie Soto book. And I have to say there are so many side characters in this that it could be about. Like if they're all in the same universe. I have a couple predictions actually. So I'm curious what you think. There's a lot of ex-step siblings. There was a random, like, cellist that seemed important. There was a lot of side characters that I was like, are you gonna get a book? Are you gonna get a book? One that I kind of thought was more low-key was B, who was the producer, or was she the director of the reality show that they were shooting at the end. She seemed like an established character or someone like I wanted to know more about. Did you guys feel like the TV crew was like random? Because it definitely came later on and it just amplified all the drama that was already happening, and I think it added a couple interesting bits, like when Elliot kind of protects her when they start like questioning about her mom. And it's a Phil Lester Twitter notification. I'm so quirky. Bring back Danafil Games. Like when Elliot defends her when they're interviewing about her mom. And also obviously when she like tells off Whitney at the end. Also a really good part. But otherwise it was a little bit random. I think maybe if it was introduced earlier on or had like another tie-in, like maybe they knew someone on the TV crew or something, that would have been more interesting. The filmmaker in me, like every time something happened and they were like, don't get this on camera, I was like, bitch, you need that on camera, like this is the story. But like there was so much good drama for that TV special, and the fact that like they just kept saying like cut the cameras, they missed so much. There was also this kind of Bridezilla twist at the end of Hazel being like on Instagram Live, my wedding planner is nowhere to be found, and that gave me so much anxiety because Emma's in the hospital with her broken foot, and it's like, oh my god. But I think that kind of added to the drama, and it was also very realistic. Someone who is an Instagrammer. She also showed kind of like some Bridezilla sides, like when the flowers like got canceled. So I feel like that was realistic because no clients are perfect, and also like on your wedding day, like people just become crazy. Like I just don't know this. I'm just saying this based on like movies. I was like, oh my god, that's crazy. But then I was like, these are not her friends. Like these are her clients. And there was this constant like boundary that she kept wanting to insert, which kind of comes from working with Whitney, and that Whitney was so mean to her. Like when somebody grabbed her butt and she punched them, which by the way, like good for her for punching them, but Whitney was so mad at her, and like that was so crazy. Okay, now we're getting into the therapy part, because one time I worked for someone named Whitney and she was so mean to me. I felt like I couldn't leave that job because I was really scared of disappointing her. People on this film owed me money, kept talking me into working more, and I was just treated really poorly and asked to like cover for her when she like didn't do her job at all or didn't do a good job or just kept messing up. And anyways, it took me to like the end of the book where I was like, oh my god, this is like me when like I was in a terrible work situation. I was like, oh my god, her name was also Whitney. I could tell you who it is, but I'm like,
such a nice person.
It's so hard, especially when you're doing something in an industry that you've always wanted to do, and then you get an actual paying job, and like you get like these kind of compliments every once in a while, and they're like, oh, no one does this work like you, like you're so good at this, and like what would I do without you, and like, ooh, I should bring you onto my next project, like we're shooting a movie like in this part of the country and you'd be so good at that, and like it's this famous director. And so you keep kind of like sacrificing everything to like try to impress this person, but you're never going to make them happy, and they're always going to say mean things to you and call you in the middle of the night and blame you when they mess up. I felt like I couldn't stick up for myself at all because I was just constantly trying to get back on her good side. One of the worst parts is the whole time you really think you're in control and that you're like bigger and smarter than this person, and you will like use this opportunity and not let it get to you. I feel like Emma was definitely in that honeymoon stage where she's like, I'm so lucky to have this mentor. She didn't know like how much she was being snubbed, like because she was basically doing all of the creative design, just getting treated like an assistant, and also giving over all of her creative liberty and like rights to Whitney, and then also being treated like crap. This was such a well-written character dynamic and problem that Elliot sees right through, and I love that. I feel like a lot of the angst like comes from like him like caring for her so much. Take care of yourself or let me take care of you. Because I just love her so much. Like, geez, like, get a room. So that's my personal connection, and I feel like that, and then also I was telling you about how my work sometimes felt very similar to this wedding planning gig. The anxiety and the pressure, like, I felt so strongly. And then even when she goes to like pick up the bathtub and she's like, I'm just gonna pick it up and I'm gonna put it in my car, I have been in situations like that where it's like, this is not something that I can logically do, but it has to get done. And I will call anyone and do anything, and I've put the strangest things in my car. Like that specific situation of having to put something in your car, I've been in that situation many times. Okay, so the part where I started crying, and I went from like, just like normal to like wailing, and the line was, you're more important than the wedding. When Elliot picked her, oh my god! When Elliot went to get her, and she's like, no, don't leave. She's like, no, get the bathtub. And he's like, I don't care about the goddamn bathtub. He absolutely drops everything to help her. And he's like, I'm taking you to the hospital, like, today, like, now. I was also like, I know that he's right, but if I was in her position, I would also go to the wedding. I think the finale was just absolutely amazing for this book. And it just went so beautifully. And then the flower dance floor that lit up, like, I could picture that, and I could picture the whole space, and it was just absolutely lovely. I love her telling off Whitney, and that's gonna be in the TV special, and she got Whitney to crack, which is just so satisfying. I feel like when I was like a teenager and I was reading books like this, I would have been so like rolling my eyes that like Emma didn't know that Whitney was like betraying her, because it was like, oh, I have no weddings on that day, and then a week later, like 4 weddings are booked on that day, and then like, oh, everyone canceled, and I would have been like, oh my god, like, why aren't you mad at her? Whenever, like, characters do stupid shit in these kind of books, or even the kind of, like, when they're scared to, like, go after the love interest, or they don't know that the love interest is interested in them, or they're, like, just, like, all of those, like, cliches, and it's like, oh my god, just, like, do it already. When you're reading the book and you're like, it's so obvious, it's so stupid. I hate how much I can relate to, like, all these, like, idiotic moments at this point in my life. It's so dumb, but, like, here we are. I think say on this book. I really want to know what you guys think. Did you think Elliot was mean? Also, who do you think should be the characters in the next book if they come from this one? Also, could you guys relate to how she literally broke her foot and still wanted to go to the wedding? Or are you like well adjusted? Hey, my name is Abby. You can subscribe to my channel to support me. I'm also on Instagram and Twitter as AbbyBarnett13. Earlier this year, I was on a podcast called Those Forking Fangirls with Christy Riccio and Tasha Polis. So if you want to listen to that, I will link the episode. That was kind of a while ago now, but it was just a wonderful experience. If you've been watching me for a long time, you know I'm a huge Christine fan, and I've just been on BookTube forever. So we talked for a couple hours just about Taylor Swift, and I told the story about how I met Taylor Swift. And if you didn't know this, in 2018, I got a rep room at the Taylor Swift concert. Anyway, so that's some stuff about me. But again, please subscribe to my channel. I love you so much. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!